The mind does not always quiet when the body is still. Sometimes it seeks a story, a gentle path to follow away from the day, a single thread of thought that leads not to a puzzle, but to peace. It looks for a story that is happening somewhere else, long ago, where the concerns of today do not exist. As this journey begins, if you wish to share this calm with others, a gentle press of the like button is all that is needed. To continue these explorations, feel free to subscribe. There is no bell to ring, only peace to be found. Now, let the world outside fade. Let the quiet begin. The darkness in the room is soft and grey. It is not the deep black of midnight, but the gentle grey that comes just before the sun remembers the world. The air is cool against the skin, carrying the faint scent of wood smoke from a neighbour's hearth and the dust of the city sleeping. A single rooster calls from somewhere down the narrow street. Its voice is distant, a lonely sound that does not break the quiet, but becomes a part of it. This is the first sound of the new day. For the tailor, Magnus Vettius, it is the only clock he needs. He lies still for a moment more on his simple woolen mattress. The coarse weave of the blanket is a familiar comfort against his cheek. He does not rush to move. The morning is a guest to be welcomed slowly, not a rival to be conquered. His eyes are open, staring at the wooden beams of the ceiling above. He knows each crack and knot in the wood. They are old friends, silent companions in the dark. In this quiet time, his mind is clear. The worries of yesterday have faded with the night. The plans for today have not yet fully formed. There is only the present. The cool air, the distant rooster, the weight of the blanket. He takes a slow, deep breath, feeling the air fill his lungs. He holds it for a moment, then lets it go, releasing the last traces of sleep. Slowly, he swings his legs over the side of the bed. His bare feet touch the cold stone floor. The sudden chill is sharp but welcome. It wakes him completely, pulling him gently from the warm world of dreams into the reality of the morning. He stands, his movements careful and quiet. He does not wish to wake his wife, Gaia, who sleeps soundly beside the space he just left. Her breathing is a soft, rhythmic sound, a gentle anchor in the stillness of the room. Magnus moves through the small space of their home. It is a single room above his workshop. It is not large, but it holds everything they need. A bed, a small table with 2 stools, a chest for their clothes, and a small alcove for cooking. He finds the clay pitcher of water on the table. He pours some into a shallow bowl. The sound of the water is loud in the silence. He splashes the cool water on his face. It feels clean and fresh, washing away the night. He does not need a lamp. The first hint of dawn is beginning to filter through the single wooden shutter. It is a pale, thin light, but it is enough. It turns the grey shadows into soft shapes. He can see the outline of the loom in the corner, a large, silent creature waiting for Gaia to bring it to life later in the day. Magnus pulls on a simple linen tunic. The fabric is old and soft from countless washings. It is a comfortable garment, worn and familiar. He does not need his finer clothes yet. This is the quiet time, the time before the day truly begins its work. He walks to the shutter and pushes it open. The cool morning air flows into the room, fresh and clean. Below, the narrow street is empty. The stone buildings on the other side are still asleep, their windows dark and closed. The sky above is a deep, dark blue, with the first pale streaks of orange and pink appearing on the eastern horizon. Rome is quiet. It is a rare and precious thing. Soon the carts will begin to rumble over the cobblestones. The merchants will shout their wares. The sounds of a million lives will fill the air. But for now, there is only this peace. Magnus leans on the windowsill, looking out at the waking city. His thoughts turn to the day ahead. He has several commissions to work on. A simple tunic for a baker. A repaired cloak for a legionary. But one project stands out in his mind. It is a toga for a senator named Cassius. It is not just any toga. It must be a toga of the finest wool, perfectly white, with a band of Tyrian purple along its edge. A garment of power and prestige. A garment that must be flawless. The wool arrived yesterday. It sits in his workshop below, wrapped in clean linen. He has not yet unrolled it. He has only felt its weight and imagined its texture. Today he will begin the work. Today he will take the first measurements, make the first chalk marks, and perhaps make the first cut. A task like this requires more than just skill. It requires a clear mind. It requires patience. It requires a deep respect for the material. It is a conversation between the tailor and the cloth. He must listen to how it wants to hang, how it wants to fold. He stands at the window for a long time, watching the colors in the sky grow brighter. The deep blue fades to a soft lavender. The orange and pink spread like paint on a canvas. The tops of the buildings begin to glow with the first rays of the sun. He feels a sense of calm purpose settle over him. The day will be long. The work will be demanding. But he is ready. He is a tailor. He creates beauty and function from simple cloth. It is a good life, a quiet life, a life of purpose. He thinks about the tools of his trade, the sharp shears, the fine needles, the smooth wooden bobbins. They are extensions of his hands, his will. Each one has its own feel, its own balance. He knows them as well as he knows his own name. The sounds of the city are beginning to grow. A dog barks nearby. A door creaks open across the street. The first cart begins to rattle in the distance. The piece is ending, but it is not a sad thing. It is simply the start of the day. He turns from the window. Gaia is beginning to stir, her soft breathing changing its rhythm. He moves quietly to the ladder that leads down to his workshop. His hand rests on the smooth, worn wood. He takes one last look around the quiet room, then descends into the space where his work awaits him. The smell of wool and chalk and oil from his tools rises to meet him, a familiar and welcome perfume. The day has begun. The workshop is dark, darker than the room above. The single door to the street is barred shut. Magnus moves by memory, his feet knowing the exact path around the cutting table and the shelves of cloth. He does not need to see. He unbars the heavy wooden door, but does not open it yet. First, he lights a small oil lamp. The tiny flame sputters to life, casting a warm, flickering glow. The shadows dance and retreat, revealing the familiar space. It is a small room, but it is organized with care. Bolts of cloth are stacked neatly on shelves against one wall. Linen, wool, and even a small, precious roll of silk from the Far East. On another wall hang his tools, shears of different sizes, needles in a leather pouch, spools of thread in every color. In the center of the room is his cutting table. It is a large, sturdy table of dark wood. Its surface is scarred with countless small cuts and marks, each one a memory of a past project. This table is the heart of his workshop. It is where creation begins. He places the lamp on the table. The gentle light illuminates the space. He takes a moment to simply stand and look. This is his domain, his sanctuary, a place where he can turn his thoughts into tangible things. He enjoys this quiet moment before the city is fully awake, before the customers arrive with their demands and their stories. It is a time for him to connect with his craft, to prepare his mind for the detailed work ahead. He knows that the quality of his work depends on his state of mind. A troubled mind leads to a crooked stick. A rushed mind leads to a clumsy cut. So he breathes. He stands in the center of his quiet workshop, surrounded by the tools and materials of his life. And he breathes. He lets the gentle, golden light of the lamp fill the space, and he lets a sense of peace fill his heart. The senator's toga can wait. For these few precious moments, there is only the quiet, the lamplight, and the promise of a new day. He is ready to begin. The scent of raw lanolin from the wool is thick in the air. It is the scent of potential. The small flame of the oil lamp is a single point of warmth in the cool morning air of the workshop. Magnus moves around the space, his actions deliberate and unhurried. This is a ritual, a series of small tasks that ready both the room and his mind for the work of the day. First, he opens the heavy wooden door to the street. He does not swing it wide open, but just enough to let in the growing light and the morning air. A sliver of the dusty Roman street is visible, the cobblestones glowing faintly in the dawn. The air that flows in is cool and carries a mix of smells. The sharp scent of baking bread from the pistrinum down the street, the earthy smell of damp stone, and the faint, sweet smell of flowers from a window box somewhere above. Magnus takes a small broom made of bound twigs and begins to sweep the stone floor. He moves with a steady, rhythmic motion. The whisper of the twigs against the stone is a soft, pleasant sound. He is not just cleaning the floor of dust and stray threads. He is clearing the space, making it ready for creation. He sweeps the small scraps of fabric from yesterday's work into a neat pile. He will save them. Even the smallest piece of cloth has a use. It can be used for patching, for stuffing a pillow, or for a child's toy. In his world, nothing is wasted. Once the floor is clean, he moves to his work table. He runs a soft linen cloth over its wooden surface, wiping away any lingering dust. He wants a perfectly clean surface for the senator's expensive wool. A single speck of dirt could mar the pure white fabric. He then turns his attention to his tools. He takes down his largest pair of shears, the ones he will use for the main cuts on the toga. They are made of iron, heavy and strong. He checks their blades, running his thumb carefully over the sharpened edges. They are still sharp from his last sharpening. He places them on the table, aligning them perfectly with the edge. He does the same with his smaller shears, his chalk and his measuring cord. Each tool has its place. This order is not just for efficiency. It is a way of showing respect for the tools and for the craft itself. He opens his leather pouch of needles. They are made of bronze and bone. He has needles of all sizes, from thick ones for sewing heavy cloaks to ones so fine they are almost invisible. He selects a few of the finest needles and places them on a small piece of felt on his table. Next, he inspects his threads. He has spools of linen and wool thread dyed in a rainbow of colors. He has earthy browns and reds, deep blues and greens. He even has a small spool of pure white silk thread, a rare luxury. For the senator's toga, he will need the finest white wool thread, spun to a perfect, consistent thickness. He finds the spool he needs and places it next to the needles. He imagines the tiny, almost invisible stitches it will make, joining the pieces of wool together so seamlessly that the garment will look like it was woven from a single piece. The workshop is beginning to feel alive. Now, the tools are ready. The space is clean. The light from the open door is growing stronger, pushing the shadows into the corners. The sounds from the street are also growing. He can hear the murmur of voices, the clatter of wooden sandals on stone, the distant rumble of a cart. Magnus feels a sense of quiet satisfaction. He has created his space for the day. It is an island of order and purpose in the chaotic sea of the city. Here, he is in control. Here, he can focus his full attention on the task at hand. He walks over to the shelf where the new wool is stored. It is a heavy bolt of fabric, carefully wrapped in a protective layer of undyed linen. He can feel the weight and density of it even through the wrapping. This is not ordinary wool. This is wool from the finest sheep of southern Italy, sheared at the perfect time, washed in the purest spring water, and spun by the most skilled hands. He does not unwrap it yet. The anticipation is part of the process. He simply rests his hand on the bolt of cloth. He closes his eyes and tries to feel the life within it. He thinks of the sheep grazing in the green fields, the shepherd watching over them. He thinks of the women at their looms, their fingers flying as they weave the yarn into cloth. He is the final step in a long journey. It is his responsibility to honor the work of all those who came before him. He cannot be careless. He cannot be rushed. He must bring all his years of experience and skill to this task. A young boy appears in the doorway. It is his apprentice, Decimus. The boy is barely 14, with a head of messy black hair and bright, curious eyes. He carries a small loaf of bread and a piece of cheese for their morning meal. "Good morning, Master Decimus," says, his voice still thick with sleep. He places the food on a small stool in the corner. He looks around the workshop, his eyes taking in the neatly arranged tools and the clean floor. "Good morning, Decimus," Magnus replies, his voice calm and even. "You are on time." "That is good. Punctuality is the first stitch in a well-made garment." Decimus nods, taking the gentle lesson to heart. He knows that his master teaches with his words as much as with his hands. He has been with Magnus for almost a year now, and he is still in awe of the older man's skill and patience. Magnus breaks the bread and hands a piece to the boy. They eat in comfortable silence, watching the street outside grow busier. The sun is higher now, and its light floods the doorway, making the dust motes dance in the air. The simple meal is grounding. It connects them to the rhythm of the day. There is no rush. There is only the bread, the cheese, and the quiet understanding between a master and his apprentice. When they have finished, Magnus looks at Decimus. "Today, we begin the toga for Senator Cassius," he says. "It is an important commission. You will watch carefully. You will learn. But first, there is a task for you. He points to a pile of simple, brown wool tunics in the corner. These are for the baker and his family. The seams need to be reinforced. Use a strong linen thread. Make your stitches small and even. This work is just as important as the senator's toga. A strong seam keeps a man warm. A weak seam brings him shame. Decimus nods again, his expression serious. He understands. Every task, no matter how small, must be done with care. He takes the tunics and a spool of thread and finds a spot on a low stool near the door where the light is best. His young fingers begin the slow, careful work of stitching. Magnus watches him for a moment, a flicker of pride in his eyes. The boy is a good apprentice. He is eager to learn, and he has a steady hand. He will make a fine tailor one day. With Decimus occupied, Magnus turns his full attention back to the wrapped bolt of wool. The moment has come. He takes a deep breath, his mind clear and focused. He is ready to see the cloth that will consume his day, and perhaps many days to come. He gently takes hold of the linen wrapping, his heart beating just a little faster with anticipation. The workshop is awake. The work is about to begin. Just as Magnus is about to unwrap the fine wool, a shadow falls across the doorway. A large man stands there, blocking the morning light. He is dressed in the robes of a wealthy merchant, his fingers adorned with gold rings. This is Marcus, a man who values quality and is willing to pay for it. Magnus, my friend, the merchant says, his voice a low boom that fills the small workshop. I trust the morning finds you well. Magnus turns, a calm smile on his face. He is not flustered by the interruption. The rhythm of the day is dictated by his customers as much as by his own plans. Marcus, it is good to see you. Come in, come in. The morning is well, and I hope it is the same for you. The merchant steps inside, his eyes scanning the neat and tidy space. He nods in approval. He likes that Magnus is a man of order. It suggests that his work, too, will be orderly and precise. I have a new commission for you, Marcus says, getting straight to the point. A tunic, but not just any tunic. I am traveling to Alexandria next month. The climate there is hot, unforgiving. I need something light, something that breathes. Magnus listens carefully, his full attention on the merchant. He is not just hearing the words, but feeling the need behind them. Comfort, practicality, but also a certain degree of style. Marcus is a man who likes to look his best, even when he is sweating under a foreign sun. Linen, of course, Magnus says, his mind already working. The finest Egyptian linen. It is the only choice for such a climate. It is light, strong, and it pulls the heat away from the body. Exactly, Marcus says, pleased that Magnus understands immediately. But I want something more, a touch of color. Not the plain white of a common man. Something subtle, but rich. Magnus walks over to a shelf and pulls down a smaller roll of cloth. He unrolls it on his cutting table. It is a bolt of linen, so fine it is almost translucent. It has been dyed a pale, sandy color, the color of the desert at dawn. Woven into the fabric are thin, subtle stripes of a deep, earthy red. This came on a ship from Antioch just last week, Magnus says. The dye is made from the madder root. The color will not fade in the sun. It is a color that speaks of travel, of distant lands. It is dignified, but not boastful. Marcus steps closer to the table. He runs his thick fingers over the surface of the linen. His touch is surprisingly gentle. He is a man who understands quality. He can feel the tight, even weave. He can see the subtle artistry in the stripes. "Yes," he says after a long moment of contemplation. "Yes, this is exactly right. It feels cool to the touch. It has a good weight to it, or rather, a lack of weight." Magnus smiles. "That is the mark of good linen." "And the cut?" Marcus asks. "I do not want it to be tight. I need room to move, but I also do not want to look like I am wearing a sack." "Of course," Magnus replies. "We will cut it a little fuller than your usual tunics. We will add a small pleat at the shoulder to allow for more movement. The sleeves will be shorter, just at the elbow. It will be comfortable, but it will still have a clean, sharp line. It will look like the garment of a man of substance." Magnus picks up his measuring cord, a long piece of string with knots tied at regular intervals. "If you will allow me," he says, approaching the merchant. Marcus stands straight and tall, his arms slightly out to his sides. Magnus begins his measurements. His movements are practiced and efficient. He measures the width of the shoulders, the length of the torso, the circumference of the chest. He calls out the numbers softly, and Decimus, who has paused his own work to watch, makes a note on a small wax tablet. Magnus is not just taking measurements. He is studying the man's form. He sees how he stands, how he holds his shoulders. A garment is not just about numbers. It is about how it drapes on a living, moving body. He makes small mental notes. A slight drop in the left shoulder, a broader back than is usual. These are the details that separate a master tailor from a mere cloth cutter. "Good," Marcus says when Magnus is finished. "I trust your judgment completely, Magnus. You have never steered me wrong. When can it be ready?" "I will need a week," Magnus says. "There is the senator's toga to begin, and other work besides. A garment of this quality cannot be rushed. A week is acceptable." The merchant agrees. "I will pay you now for the cloth, and the rest upon completion." He reaches into a pouch at his belt and produces a handful of silver coins. The sound of them clinking on the wooden table is bright and clear. Magnus does not count the coins immediately. He simply nods. The transaction is based on trust, built over many years of good work and fair prices. "I will see you in a week. Then," Marcus says, turning to leave. "And Magnus," he adds, pausing in the doorway, "make it well. When I am in Alexandria, I want the Greeks and the Egyptians to see how a Roman merchant presents himself. It will be a tunic worthy of Rome," Magnus promises. The merchant nods one last time and is gone. The bright rectangle of light in the doorway is empty again. The workshop feels quiet after the merchant's booming voice and large presence. Magnus looks at the sandy-colored linen on his table. It is a beautiful piece of cloth. He enjoys working with linen. It is an honest fabric. It is not as forgiving as wool, but it holds a crease better than any other material. He carefully rolls the linen back up and places it on a separate shelf. He will not work on it today. Today is for the senator's toga. But the plan for the tunic is already forming in his mind. He can see the finished garment, how it will hang, how the red stripes will complement the sandy background. He turns to Decimus, who is still holding the wax tablet. "You see, my boy," Magnus says, his voice soft, "a tailor is more than just a sewer of cloth. He is a listener. He must listen to what the customer wants, but also to what the customer needs. He must listen to the cloth itself, to understand how it can best be used. Marcus said he wanted a tunic, Magnus continues, but what he was really asking for was confidence. He wants to feel confident in a foreign land. He wants his clothes to speak for him, to say that he is a man of importance. Our job is to give him that confidence. The tunic is just the vessel for it. Decimus looks from the wax tablet to his master's face. He is beginning to understand that this craft is deeper than he ever imagined. It is a form of psychology, of understanding people. It is about more than just keeping people warm and covered. It is about helping them be who they want to be. Magnus picks up the coins from the table and places them in a small wooden box. The silver is cool and heavy in his hand. It is a good start to the day, but the real wealth, he knows, is not in the coins. It is in the trust of his customers. It is in the feel of fine cloth under his hands. It is in the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. Now, finally, the workshop is truly ready. The morning consultation is complete. The apprentice has his task. The distractions are gone. Magnus turns back to the large, linen-wrapped bolt on the floor. His mind is clear. His hands are steady. It is time to meet the senator's wool. He feels a quiet thrill, a deep sense of purpose. The real work of the day is about to begin. The silence in the workshop deepens, filled only with the soft scratching of Decimus's needle and the sound of Magnus's own steady breathing. The moment has arrived. Magnus stands before the large bolt of wool. It rests on two low stools, a long, heavy cylinder wrapped in plain linen. All the morning's preparations, all the rituals and interruptions have led to this point. He gestures for Decimus to pause his work. "Come," Magnus says softly. "You must see this." The apprentice puts down his mending and approaches the bolt, his eyes wide with a mixture of curiosity and reverence. He has heard his master speak of this wool, but he has not yet seen it. Magnus kneels down. His movements are slow, like a priest before an altar. He gently unties the cord that holds the linen wrapping in place. He folds the wrapping back carefully, revealing the first few inches of the wool beneath. It is white, but it is a white that Decimus has never seen before. It is not the dull, yellowish white of common, undyed wool. It is a brilliant, clean white, like freshly fallen snow on a mountain peak. It seems to almost glow in the dim light of the workshop. "This is from Tarentum," Magnus says, his voice barely a whisper. "The sheep there are special. They are kept in fleece-lined jackets to protect their wool from dirt and brambles. Their diet is carefully controlled. The wool is not washed with harsh lye, but with a special soap made from plants in the purest river water." He continues to unroll the linen wrapping, and more of the spectacular wool is revealed. The cloth is thick and heavy, with a dense, tight weave. There are no flaws, no snags, no imperfections. It is a perfect surface. "Touch it," Magnus says to Decimus. The boy hesitates for a moment, then reaches out a tentative hand. His fingers brush against the surface of the wool. A look of surprise crosses his face. "It is so soft," he whispers. "Yes," Magnus agrees. "Soft, but also strong. Feel the weight of it. A toga made from this wool will hang perfectly." It will not crease or sag. It will hold its shape from morning until night. It will feel like a second skin to the man who wears it. Magnus and Decimus together lift the heavy bolt and place it on the clean surface of the cutting table. It takes up nearly the entire length of the table. Magnus continues to unroll it, spreading the magnificent fabric out. The workshop is filled with the clean, slightly sweet smell of the high-quality wool. It is a comforting, natural scent. Magnus runs his own hands over the surface, his eyes closed. He can feel the quality in his fingertips. He can feel the lanolin, the natural oil of the wool, which makes it soft and water-resistant. This is the part of his job he loves the most, the connection with the materials. He believes that every piece of cloth has a story, a spirit. His job is to understand that spirit and shape it into something beautiful and useful. He spends a long time just looking at the wool, studying its texture, the way the light plays on its surface. He is looking for the grain of the fabric, the subtle direction of the threads. A good tailor knows that you must cut with the grain, not against it. To cut against the grain is to fight the cloth. To cut with it is to work in harmony with it. A toga is not just a piece of clothing, Magnus explains to Decimus, who is watching, mesmerized. It is a symbol. It is the uniform of a Roman citizen. It tells the world who you are. A simple citizen wears a plain white toga. A magistrate wears one with a purple border. A general celebrating a triumph wears one that is entirely purple and embroidered with gold. This toga, he continues, gesturing to the white wool, is for a senator. It is a toga it must be perfect. When Senator Cassius stands in the Senate House, his toga must speak of his dignity, his authority, his gravitas. It cannot be sloppy. It cannot be ill-fitting. It must be an extension of the man himself. Decimus nods, understanding the weight of the responsibility. This is not just a garment. It is a piece of Roman identity. Magnus picks up his long measuring stick, made of polished olive wood. A toga is not made of many pieces sewn together. It is a single, vast piece of cloth. Traditionally, it is a semicircle. The challenge is not in the sewing, but in the cutting. The curve must be perfect. The dimensions must be exact. He knows the senator's height and build from a previous fitting for another garment. He has the numbers memorized. He begins to make his calculations, murmuring softly to himself. He double-checks every number. A mistake at this stage would be a disaster. The wool is far too expensive to waste. He takes a piece of charcoal and sharpens it to a fine point. He will not use chalk on this pure white surface. The charcoal will brush off easily and leave no mark. He begins to mark the wool. His movements are confident and precise. He does not use the measuring stick for the curve. For that, he uses a long piece of string anchored at the center of the straight edge. He pulls it taut and swings it in a perfect arc, his hand steady, letting the charcoal trail behind it. It is a gesture of pure geometry, a perfect half-circle drawn on a sea of white. Decimus watches in silence, holding his breath. It looks so simple, the way his master does it. But he knows it is the result of thousands of hours of practice. It is the kind of skill that cannot be taught, only learned through endless repetition. When the marking is done, Magnus steps back. He and Decimus look at the table. On the vast expanse of white wool, there is now a faint black line, a perfect semicircle. It is the ghost of the toga. the outline of what it will become. Magnus feels a deep sense of satisfaction. The first and most critical step is complete. He has imposed his will upon the raw material. He has given it form, a destiny. He looks at the wool again, at its pure, almost luminous surface. It is more than just thread. It is a piece of the earth. It is a piece of human ingenuity. It connects him to the shepherds, the spinners, the weavers. It connects him to the senator who will wear it. He is a link in a long chain. We will not cut today, Magnus says. The marking is enough for now. We must let the cloth rest. We must be sure of our marks. Tomorrow we will take up the shears. He gestures for Decimus to help him. They carefully fold the wool, making sure not to smudge the charcoal line. They wrap it once again in its protective linen cloth and place it back on the low stools. The workshop seems to return to normal. The magnificent wool is hidden from view once more, but its presence is still felt. It has changed the energy of the room. It has brought a sense of importance, of high purpose, to the small space. Magnus returns to his own stool and takes a deep breath. He feels the familiar calm settle over him again. He has met the wool. He has understood it. He has made his mark. The conversation has begun. He looks over at Decimus, who has returned to his mending, but whose stitches are now a little more careful, a little more precise. The boy has learned something important today. He has learned that tailoring is an art, not just a trade. And at the heart of that art is a deep and abiding respect for the material. The finest wool from Tarentum demands nothing less. The next morning dawns much the same as the last. The air is cool, the light is soft, and the city awakens with a slow, growing murmur. Magnus performs his morning rituals with the same quiet deliberation. He sweeps the floor, wipes the table, and arranges his tools. Today, however, there is a different energy in the workshop. Attention, a focused anticipation. Today is the day of the first cut. After their simple breakfast of bread and figs, Magnus does not immediately turn to the senator's toga. Instead, he unrolls the sandy-colored linen for the merchant. Marcus Decimus watches curious. Before a great battle, a general inspects his lesser troops first, Magnus says, his voice calm. It settles the mind. It warms up the hands. He spreads the linen on the table. It is a beautiful fabric, but it does not have the same imposing presence as the Tarentum wool. It is lighter, more approachable. Magnus takes his measuring cord and a piece of white chalk. He quickly and efficiently marks out the pieces for the merchant's tunic. 2 large rectangles for the body, 2 smaller ones for the sleeves. It is a simple, familiar pattern, one he has cut hundreds of times. He hands a smaller pair of shears to Decimus. "Watch my hands," he says. "Then you will cut the sleeves." Magnus picks up his own shears. They are smaller and lighter than the great shears for the toga. He positions the blades along the first chalk line. He takes a breath. Then, with a smooth, continuous motion, he closes the shears. The sound is crisp and clean. A sharp whisper of steel through linen. It is a deeply satisfying sound. The sound of separation. The sound of creation. He makes the long cut for the side of the tunic. His hand is perfectly steady. The shears glide through the fabric as if it were water. He does not hesitate. He does not slow down. He trusts his eyes, his hand, and the sharpness of his blade. When he is done, he steps back and gestures for Decimus. "Now you," he says. "The sleeves. Remember what I have taught you. Do not push the shears. Let their weight do the work. Long, smooth strokes. Do not be timid. A timid cut is a jagged cut." Decimus takes the smaller shears. They feel heavy in his young hands. He approaches the table, his heart beating a little faster. He places the blades on the chalk line. He looks at his master, who gives him a slight nod of encouragement. The boy takes a breath, just as he saw Magnus do. He closes the shears. The first cut is a little hesitant, the sound not as clean. "Again," Magnus says gently, "smoother this time. Trust the tool. Trust your hand." Decimus tries again. This time, the motion is better. The sound is crisper. A smile touches the boy's lips. He continues cutting, and with each stroke, his confidence grows. He is no longer fighting the shears, but working with them. When he has cut out both sleeve pieces, he steps back, his face flushed with pride. The cuts are not as perfectly straight as his master's, but they are clean and true. "Good," Magnus says. "That is good work. You see, it is a rhythm, a dance between hand and eye and steel. Now put these pieces aside. Our hands are warm, our minds are focused. It is time." They carefully put away the linen pieces for the merchant's tunic. Magnus once again wipes the table clean, ensuring not a single stray thread or speck of chalk remains. Then, together, they lift the heavy bolt of white wool and lay it upon the table. Magnus unrolls it, revealing the faint charcoal arc he drew the day before. He inspects the line carefully. It is still perfect. He has not changed his mind. He walks to the wall and takes down his largest shears. These are different. They are longer, heavier, with a powerful look to them. He has owned them since he was a young man. They were his father's before him. The handles are worn smooth from decades of use. He holds them in his hands, feeling their familiar weight and balance. These shears are not just a tool. They are a legacy. He approaches the table. The workshop is silent. Even the sounds from the street seem to have faded away. There is only the white wool, the black line, and the dark iron of the shears. Decimus stands a few feet away, watching, not daring to breathe. Magnus does not start the cut immediately. He stands for a full minute, looking at the cloth. He is visualizing the cut before he makes it. He sees the path the blades will take. He feels the motion in his muscles. Then he leans over the table, positioning the shears at the very beginning of the charcoal line. His body is braced. His grip is firm, but not tight. He takes a slow, deep breath and begins to cut. The sound the great shears make is different from the whisper of the smaller pair. It is a deeper, softer sound. A low, continuous shush as the thick, soft wool parts before the blades. Magnus moves slowly along the line. His eyes are fixed on the point where the blades meet the cloth. He does not look ahead. He does not look behind. He is completely in the present moment, in the act of cutting. He moves his whole body, not just his hand. He walks alongside the table, the shears moving with him in a single, fluid motion. It is a graceful, powerful dance. The long, white shape of the toga begins to separate from the rest of the bolt. Decimus is in awe. His master seems to have merged with the tool. There is no separation between the man the shears, and the cloth. They are all part of one single, focused action. The long, curved cut takes several minutes to complete. Magnus never pauses. He never adjusts his grip. His rhythm is as steady as a heartbeat. Finally, he reaches the end of the arc. With one final, soft snip, the cut is complete. The great semicircular shape of the toga lies free on the table. Magnus straightens up slowly. He lets out a long breath he did not realize he was holding. He lays the heavy shears down on the table, their work done for now. He and Decimus look at the result. The cut edge is perfect. It is a clean, sharp curve, with no stray fibers, no jagged spots. It is a line of beauty and precision drawn with steel. "There," Magnus says, his voice quiet. "The first step is the hardest. The shape is born. Now we must give it life." He runs his hand along the cut edge of the wool. It is soft and thick. He feels a profound sense of accomplishment, a quiet joy that runs deeper than words. He has taken a piece of raw material and, with nothing more than a line and a blade, has brought it one step closer to its final, noble form. The tension in the workshop is gone, replaced by a calm, focused energy. The most difficult part is over. The rest of the work will require patience and skill, but not the same nerve-wracking precision as that first, irreversible cut. He carefully folds the massive piece of wool. He will let it rest again before he begins the long, tedious process of hemming the edge. The cloth needs time to settle into its new shape. He looks at Decimus and sees the boy's wide, admiring eyes. He places a hand on his apprentice's shoulder. "Remember this feeling, Decimus," he says. "The feeling of a clean cut, the feeling of a difficult task done well. This is the tailor's reward. It is better than silver. It lasts longer than praise." The boy nods, unable to speak. He knows he has witnessed something special. Not just the cutting of a piece of cloth, but an act of mastery, an act of creation. And he knows, with a certainty that fills his young heart, that this is the life he wants for himself. A life of chalk and shears. With the great toga cut resting, the rhythm of the workshop shifts. The air of high drama is replaced by one of quiet, steady work. Magnus believes that an apprentice learns not just from watching the great tasks, but from mastering the small ones. He retrieves the pieces of the merchant's sandy-colored tunic that Decimus had cut earlier. He lays them out on the smaller work table. "The cutting is done," Magnus says, his voice returning to its normal, calm tone. "Now begins the joining. This tunic is for you, Decimus. You will sew it from the first stitch to the last." A look of panic, followed by a flash of excitement, crosses the boy's face. He has mended clothes. He has practiced his stitches on scraps of fabric, but he has never been given the responsibility of constructing a whole garment for a paying customer. "Master, I am not sure I am ready," Decimus stammers. "You are ready," Magnus says simply, his confidence in the boy unwavering. "I will guide you, but your hands will do the work. A bird cannot learn to fly by watching from the nest. It must leap." He hands Decimus a spool of strong linen thread, dyed a shade of red, slightly darker than the stripes in the fabric. "This will be the thread for the main seams," he explains. "It will be a strong contrast, a feature of the design. But it means your stitches must be perfect. Every one will be visible." Decimus swallows hard. There is no room for error. Now, Magnus begins. The first lesson. The needle. He takes a fine bronze needle from its felt pad. The needle is your partner. It is not a tool to be forced. You must learn its language. Hold it lightly. Do not pinch it. Your fingers should guide it, not command it. He demonstrates the grip, his long, slender fingers holding the needle with an effortless grace. Decimus mimics him, his own fingers feeling clumsy and thick in comparison. Good, Magnus says. Now, the thread. Do not use a piece that is too long. A long thread is a proud thread. It loves to tangle and not to show off its length. Use a piece no longer than from your elbow to your fingertips. It is a humble length. It will obey you. He shows Decimus how to measure and cut the thread, how to wax it with a small lump of beeswax to make it stronger and smoother, and how to tie the perfect, small knot at the end. These are the foundational skills, the grammar of sewing. We will begin with the shoulder seams, Magnus instructs. Pin the two pieces together. Use the fine bronze pins, and do not be stingy with them. They are your temporary stitches, holding the cloth in place while you work your magic with the needle. Decimus carefully aligns the shoulder edges of the front and back tunic pieces. He inserts the pins, his movements slow and deliberate. He is so focused that a small bead of sweat forms on his brow. Now, the stitch, Magnus says, pulling up a stool to sit beside the boy. We will use a simple back. It is the strongest and most reliable of all stitches. It looks like a simple line on the top, but underneath, it creates a powerful chain. Watch. Magnus takes a scrap of the same linen. With a few deft movements, he creates a short line of perfect, tiny stitches. They are all exactly the same length, all perfectly straight. It looks as if a machine had made them. You see, he says, the needle goes in, then comes up a space ahead. Then it goes back into the same hole it came out of before. Backwards, then forwards. A simple rhythm. Backwards, then forwards. He hands the needle and the pinned shoulder seam to Decimus. Your turn. Go slowly. Do not think about the whole seam. Think only of the next stitch. Make that one stitch as perfect as you can. Then think only of the one after that. Decimus takes the needle. His hand is trembling slightly. He pushes the needle into the cloth. His first stitch is too long. The second is too short and crooked. He lets out a frustrated sigh. Patience, Magnus says, his voice a soothing balm. Your hand is not yet trained. It does not know the rhythm. You must teach it. Do not be angry with it. Be a gentle teacher. He places his hand over Decimus's, guiding the boy's fingers. Feel the motion, he says softly. In, up, back, through. It is a small circle, a dance. Let the needle lead. Together, they make a few stitches. Magnus's hand guides Decimus's, letting him feel the correct pressure, the correct angle. Then he removes his hand. Now, you alone, he says. Decimus continues. His stitches are still not perfect, but they are better. They are more even. He is starting to feel the rhythm Magnus spoke of. In, up, back, through, a small, repeating pattern. He becomes lost in the work. The sounds of the workshop fade away. The bustling street outside disappears. There is only the sandy-colored linen, the dark red thread, and the small, repeating dance of the needle in his hand. He is not just sewing a seam. He is learning to focus his mind. He is learning patience. He is learning to find a meditative peace in a simple, repetitive task. This is the true lesson. The tunic is just the exercise. Magnus does not interrupt him. He lets the boy work, watching him with a quiet, observant eye. He sees the initial frustration give way to concentration, and the concentration slowly soften into a state of flow. He sees the boy's shoulders relax, his breathing deepen. This is how a tailor is made. Not in a day, not with a single lesson, but stitch by stitch, seam by seam, garment by garment. It is a slow alchemy, turning an impatient boy into a focused craftsman. After what feels like a long time, Decimus finishes the first shoulder seam. He holds it up for his master to inspect. The line of red stitches is not perfectly straight. The lengths are not perfectly even, but it is a strong, solid seam. It will hold. It is a good beginning, Magnus says, and for Decimus, the quiet praise is more valuable than a bag of gold. It is an honest seam. It shows the hand of the maker. Now, do the other one. See if you can make it even better. Decimus turns to the second shoulder seam with renewed determination. He is not just following instructions anymore. He is engaged in a conversation with the cloth. He is striving for improvement. He is learning. Magnus leaves him to his work and turns to a simpler task of his own. He takes a soldier's heavy wool cloak from the mending pile. It has a long tear in the hem. He chooses a thick, strong thread and begins to sew. His own stitches are flawless. A lifetime of practice in his hands. But he takes no more and no less care with this simple mending job than he would with a senator's toga. All work is worthy of respect. All cloth deserves to be treated with care. The workshop is filled with a comfortable, productive silence. There is only the soft whisper of thread passing through fabric, the two of them working side by side, master and apprentice, one teaching with his silence, the other learning with his hands. A lesson far more profound than any words could convey is passing between them, stitched into the very fabric of the day. The sun climbs higher in the sky, reaching its peak. The light flooding the workshop doorway is no longer the soft, angled light of morning, but a bright, white, and direct glare. The stone of the street outside radiates a dry heat that flows into the small space. The sounds of the city have changed as well. The busy hum of the morning has grown into a louder, more chaotic chorus. Vendors shout, children laugh and cry, and the iron-rimmed wheels of heavy wagons groan and clatter over the uneven stones. Rome is at its most boisterous, its most alive. Inside the workshop, the air is warm and still. The scent of wool and beeswax is thick. Magnus puts down the soldier's mended cloak. He inspects his work. The tear is gone, replaced by a neat, strong seam that is almost invisible. He nods in satisfaction. He looks over at desk. The boy is still bent over the merchant's tunic, his brow furrowed in concentration. He has finished the shoulder seams and is now working on attaching one of the sleeves. His stitches are noticeably better than when he started. They are smaller, more even. He is learning quickly, Decimus Magnus says gently, not wanting to startle him. The sun is at its highest point. It is time to rest our eyes and our hands. The boy looks up, blinking as if waking from a dream. He had been so lost in his work, he had not noticed the passage of time. He carefully puts his needle into the felt pad and stretches his stiff shoulders. "Come," Magnus says. "Let us take our meal." They do not leave the workshop. Magnus keeps a small supply of food in a wooden chest in the corner. He takes out a round of dark bread, a small wheel of hard sheep's cheese, a handful of black olives, and 2 small, tart apples. It is a simple meal, the food of a working man. He breaks the bread with his hands and gives a large piece to Decimus, along with an apple and a portion of the cheese and olives. He takes a clay jug of water and fills 2 simple earthenware cups. They sit on low stools just inside the doorway in the shade, but close enough to watch the river of life flowing past on the street. For a few minutes, they eat in a comfortable silence, the silence of people who spend their days working together. The bread is coarse but filling. The cheese is sharp and salty. The olives are bitter and rich. The apple is crisp and cleanses the palate. The water is cool and refreshing. Each flavor is simple, clear, and honest. Magnus eats slowly, savoring each bite. He is a man who pays attention to details, whether it is the texture of a piece of cloth or the taste of a piece of cheese. He believes that to live a good life, one must be present in the small moments. He watches the people passing by in the street. He sees a wealthy matron, carried in a litter by 4 strong slaves. She is followed by a barefoot beggar, his hand outstretched. He sees a group of legionaries, their armor glinting in the sun, laughing loudly at some shared joke. He sees a woman carrying a heavy basket of vegetables from the market, her face weary but determined. It is a pageant of humanity, rich and poor, powerful and weak, all sharing the same dusty street under the same hot sun. Magnus sees them not just as people, but as potential customers. He sees the fine silk of the matron's stola, the rough-spun wool of the beggar's tunic, the sturdy leather of the soldier's sandals. "Look, Decimus," he says, pointing with a piece of bread. "Look at how their clothes tell their story." The boy follows his gaze. "See the senator in his fine toga," Magnus says, as a man in white robes walks by, his face a mask of serious importance. His garment is large, impracticable. It tells you that he does not do physical labor. It wraps him in a cloak of authority. Its whiteness tells you he has slaves to clean it. "Now, look at that stonemason," he continues, gesturing to a muscular man whose tunic is short, stained with dust, and belted high to free his legs. His clothes are pure function. They are made of a tough, cheap fabric. They are designed for movement, for work. His clothes speak of his strength and his trade. "And the woman from a foreign land," he says, nodding towards a woman in brightly colored robes that are unlike the Roman style. "Her clothes speak of her home, of a different culture, a different world. They make her stand out. They tell us she is a visitor here. Never forget," Decimus Magnus concludes, his voice soft but firm. "We do not just sell cloth and thread. We sell stories. We help people tell the world who they are or who they want to be. It is a great responsibility." Decimus chews on his bread, his eyes wide as he looks at the people on the street. He is seeing them in a new way. He is not just seeing clothes, but messages, symbols, identities. The world has suddenly become a more interesting, more complex place. They finish their meal in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. The break is short, no more than half an hour. But it is enough. It is a pause in the day's labor, a moment to rest, to refuel, to reflect. Magnus gathers the remains of their meal and puts them away. He drinks the last of his water. He feels the quiet energy returning to his body. The rest has done him good. He looks at the great, folded shape of the sonata's toga, still waiting patiently on its stools. The next task will be the hymn. It is a long, slow, and repetitive job. It will require hundreds, perhaps thousands, of tiny, invisible stitches. It is a task that many would find boring, but Magnus does not see it that way. He sees it as a form of meditation, a time to let his hands work while his mind is calm and clear. It is in these long, quiet hours of simple stitching that he often has his best ideas. "All right, Decimus," he says, his voice now brisk with purpose. "Our break is over. The afternoon's work awaits. Let us see how that other sleeve is coming along." The boy gets up, his energy renewed. The simple meal and the short rest have revived him. He returns to his stool and his tunic, his fingers eager to take up the needle again. Magnus walks back to the center of his workshop. The heat of the day does not bother him. The noise of the city does not distract him. He is back in his own world, a world of quiet focus and skilled hands. He picks up a fine needle and a spool of white wool thread. The midday pause is over. The steady rhythm of the work begins again. The afternoon sun slants into the workshop, its light less harsh, more golden. The peak of the day's heat has passed. A gentle breeze stirs the dust on the street outside, offering a small measure of relief. Magnus has decided it is time to approach the most delicate part of the senator's toga, the border. The main body of the toga is pure white, a symbol of citizenship and purity. But as a man of senatorial rank, Cassius is entitled to wear a stripe of purple along the long, straight edge of his toga. This stripe, the clavus latus, is a powerful symbol of his status. This is not just any purple, it is Tyrian purple, the most expensive, most sought-after dye in the entire Roman world. It is extracted in minuscule amounts from a type of sea snail found off the coast of Phoenicia. Thousands of snails are needed to produce enough dye for a single garment. Its cost is greater than that of gold. Magnus keeps his supply of purple-dyed wool in a special cedar box. The cedar repels moths and other insects that might damage the precious material. He opens the box, and a faint, slightly fishy smell, the unique scent of the dye, escapes into the air. Inside the box, resting on a bed of soft, undyed linen, is a long, narrow strip of woven wool. The color is breathtaking. It is a deep, rich purple, a color that seems to absorb the light and hold it within itself. Depending on how the light hits it, it can flash with hints of crimson or deep blue. This is not a color for the timid. It is the color of emperors, of generals, of senators. It is the color of power itself. "Come here, Decimus," Magnus calls softly. He wants the boy to witness this. Decimus leaves his tunic and approaches the cedar box. He peers inside, and his eyes go wide. He has never seen such a color. It is more vibrant, more alive than any other dye he has ever encountered. "Be very careful," Magnus warns as he lifts the purple strip from the box. "We have exactly the amount needed. There is no room for a single mistake. A slip of the shears, a crooked stitch, and we could ruin a fortune. He lays the purple strip on the cutting table. It looks like a ribbon of royal blood against the dark wood. His task is to attach this band to the edge of the white toga so seamlessly that it looks as if it were woven into the fabric itself. First, he must prepare the edge of the toga. He retrieves the massive white semicircle of wool and unfolds it along the length of the table. He takes a special tool, a small, sharp blade set in a wooden handle, and begins to carefully trim the straight edge of the toga, ensuring it is perfectly, absolutely straight. He works with intense focus, his face close to the fabric. His breathing is slow and steady. This is a task that requires a surgeon's precision. Once the edge is prepared, he lays the purple band alongside it. He does not use pins to hold it in place. Pins could leave small holes in the precious fabric. Instead, he will use a technique called basting. He will use a temporary, long stitch with a fine silk thread to hold the band in place while he works. This basting stitch will be carefully removed later. He threads a fine needle with a pale grey silk thread. The color is chosen so it can be easily seen against both the white and the purple, making it easier to remove later. He begins to baste the purple band to the white toga. His stitches are long and loose, just enough to hold the two pieces of fabric together. He works his way down the entire length of the toga, a distance of many feet. His movements are efficient and economical. There is no wasted motion. Decimus watches, silent and still. He understands the immense concentration this task requires. The slightest distraction could be disastrous. The workshop grows quiet again, the only sound the soft whisper of the silk thread passing through the wool. When the basting is complete, Magnus steps back to inspect his work. The purple band lies perfectly flat against the white edge. There are no puckers, no pulls. It is ready for the permanent stitches. For this, he chooses a different thread. He has a spool of wool thread that has been dyed the exact same shade of Tyrian purple. The stitches he makes with this thread will be completely invisible on the purple side. He also has a spool of the purest white wool thread, which will be used for the underside. This is the most difficult part. He will use a special stitch, a hidden whip stitch. He must catch only a few threads from the white wool on the underside, and then bring the needle up through the very edge of the purple band. If done correctly, the stitches will be invisible from both the top and the bottom. He pulls his stool up to the table and bends over the work. The light from the doorway is starting to fade, so he asks Decimus to light another oil lamp and place it on the table close to his hands. The work is incredibly slow and painstaking. Each stitch is a small, precise movement. He inserts the needle, feels for the right number of threads, pulls it through, and tightens the stitch to the perfect tension. Too loose, and the seam will be weak. Too tight, and the fabric will pucker. Minutes turn into an hour, then two. Decimus goes back to his own work, but he glances over at his master from time to time, amazed at his unwavering focus. Magnus does not seem to tire. He does not shift his position. He has entered a state of complete absorption in his craft. He is no longer just a tailor. He is an artist, working with his chosen medium. The white wool is his canvas, the purple band his paint, the needle his brush. He thinks about the history of the color he is working with. He thinks of the Phoenician sailors who braved the seas to find the snails. He thinks of the dye makers, their hands permanently stained purple, who knew the secret recipes to create this exact shade. He feels a connection to them, a shared sense of purpose across time and distance. Finally, as the last of the daylight fades from the sky and the workshop is lit only by the warm glow of the oil lamps, he makes the final stitch. He ties a tiny, invisible knot and snips the thread. He stands up and stretches his back, which is stiff from hours of being bent over the table. He runs his fingers over the seam he has just created. It is perfect. It is smooth, strong, and completely invisible. The purple band looks as if it has grown from the white wool. He feels a wave of deep, quiet pride. This is the pinnacle of his craft. This is the kind of work that separates a master from an apprentice. It is not work that shouts. It is work that whispers. It is a quiet perfection, a beauty that is only visible to those who know where to look. He then begins the delicate process of removing the grey silk basting threads. He uses a small pair of tweezers, pulling each long stitch out carefully, one by one. When he is done, the toga is transformed. It is no longer just a piece of white wool. It is a garment of power, of status, of Rome itself. The deep purple stripe gives it a weight, a gravity that it did not have before. "It is done," he says, his voice tired but filled with satisfaction. He shows the seam to Decimus, who runs a finger over it in wonder. "I cannot see the stitches at all," the boy says, his voice full of awe. "That is the point," Magnus says, with a small smile. "The best work is the work you do not see. It is the work that simply feels right." He carefully folds the toga and places it away. The most challenging part of its creation is over. The rest is just a matter of patient stitching. Just as Magnus is beginning to think about closing the workshop for the day, a new shadow falls across the doorway. This time, it is not the imposing figure of a merchant, but the slender, elegant form of a woman, dressed in the fine linen of the upper class. It is Cornelia, the wife of a city magistrate. She is known throughout the neighborhood for her sharp eye and even sharper tongue. "Magnus," she says, her voice as crisp as new parchment. She does not wait for an invitation, but glides into the workshop, her gaze sweeping over the space, missing nothing. An older slave woman follows a few steps behind her, carrying a wrapped garment. "Domina Cornelia," Magnus says, his voice perfectly calm and respectful. He has dealt with Cornelia many times before. He knows that she requires a special kind of patience. "How may I be of service?" "I have come for the fitting of my new stola," she announces, as if he should have known. "The one in that sea-green linen you acquired from Rhodes. You promised it would be ready for a fitting today." "Of course," Domina Magnus replies smoothly. "It is ready. Decimus, please fetch the green stola. He has already prepared for her visit. The garment is nearly complete, needing only the final adjustments after this fitting." Decimus, looking a little intimidated, scurries to a shelf and brings back the garment. It is a beautiful piece of work. The linen is a delicate shade of green, like the shallow waters of the Aegean Sea. Magnus has added a subtle embroidered border at the neckline and hem, using a thread of a slightly darker green. Cornelia takes the stola from Decimus without a word of thanks and hands it to her slave. Help me with this, she commands. There is a small changing area in the back of the workshop, curtained off for privacy. Cornelia disappears behind it. Magnus waits patiently. He knows this is the part that requires the most diplomacy. After a few minutes, she emerges. The stellar is a long, sleeveless tunic, meant to be worn over an undertunic and fastened at the shoulders with breeches. The segreen fabric drapes beautifully over her tall, slender frame. She walks to the center of the workshop and stands with her hands on her hips, examining her reflection in a small, polished bronze mirror that Magnus keeps for this purpose. She turns this way and that, her expression critical. She says, the sound expressing her displeasure. The drape is not quite right on the left side. It pulls here at the hip. She plucks at the fabric. Magnus approaches her, his eyes expertly assessing the garment. He sees the slight pull she is talking about. It is a minor issue, easily fixed, a result of how she stands, with her weight shifted to one side. "You are right, Damina," he says, his voice agreeable. "Your eye is as sharp as my finest needle. It is a small matter. A slight adjustment to the side seam will correct it." He gestures for Decimus to bring him his pincushion and chalk. He kneels down beside Cornelia. "If you would stand, as you normally do," he says. He begins to work, his hands moving with a swift, confident purpose. He releases a few stitches at the side seam with a small blade, lets the fabric fall naturally, and then repins it. He uses his chalk to make a new, subtle curve for the seam. And the length, Cornelia continues, her eyes still on the mirror. "I think it should be just a fraction longer. I want it to brush the tops of my sandals, not show my ankles. Ankle length is for market women." "An excellent suggestion," Damina Magnus says, though he had made it to the exact length she had requested at the first consultation. "A little more length will add to the elegance of the line." He makes another chalk mark at the hem. He works quickly and silently, his manner calm and reassuring. He does not argue or defend his work. He simply listens and makes the required adjustments. He has learned that with clients like Cornelia, the goal is not to be right, but to make them feel heard and respected. "The embroidery at the neck," she says, her critical gaze moving upwards. "It is ... acceptable. But I was imagining something a little more elaborate." "The pattern can certainly be extended," Damina Magnus replies. "We could add a few more swirling vines here at the shoulder. It would draw the eye upwards and flatter the line of your neck." He sketches a quick, imaginary pattern in the air with his finger. Cornelia considers this a flicker of approval in her eyes. Yes, do that. It needs that little extra touch." She continues to find small, almost imperceptible faults with the garment. The way a pleat falls, the tension of the fabric across her back. With each comment, Magnus listens patiently, nods, and makes a small mark with his chalk, or adjusts a pin. Decimus watches the exchange with a sense of wonder. He would have been flustered, perhaps even angered, by such a demanding client. But his master is a picture of serene competence. He is like a calm rock in a stormy sea. He absorbs all of her criticisms and turns them into constructive actions. Finally, Cornelia seems to be satisfied. She has run out of things to complain about. "Very well, Magnus," she says, her tone softening slightly. "I believe, with these adjustments, it will be adequate. When can I expect it to be finished?" I will have my apprentice work on it this evening, and I will finish the embroidery myself in the morning, Domina Magnus promises. It will be ready for you by noon tomorrow. See that it is, she says. She turns and disappears behind the curtain again. A few moments later, she emerges in her own clothes, hands the green stola to her slave, and sweeps out of the workshop without another word. The workshop is quiet again. Decimus lets out a long breath. She is very particular, he says, unable to find a more diplomatic word. Magnus smiles, a genuine, warm smile. Cornelia is one of my best customers, he says, to the boy's surprise. But she complained about everything, Decimus says, confused. Yes, Magnus agrees, but she complains because she cares. She has a vision in her mind of how she wants to look, and she will not be satisfied until the garment matches that vision perfectly. It is my job to help her achieve that. She pushes me to do my best work. In a way, a difficult client is a gift. They force you to become a better craftsman. He picks up the green stola. He looks at all the chalk marks and pins. He does not see them as criticisms. He sees them as a roadmap to perfection. There is a lesson here, Decimus, he says, his tone becoming instructive again. Your skill with a needle is only half of your trade. The other half is your skill with people. You must learn to listen. You must learn to be patient. You must learn that the customer is not buying a dress. They are buying a feeling. The feeling of being beautiful, of being confident. If you can give them that feeling, they will come back to you again and again. He hands the stola to Decimus. Now, you will make these adjustments to the seams. Take your time. Follow my marks exactly. Make them strong and invisible. This is an important lesson. Decimus takes the garment, a new understanding dawning in his mind. He sees that his master's patience was not a sign of weakness, but of great strength. It was the strength of a true professional, a man who has complete confidence in his own abilities, and who has the wisdom to put his ego aside in service of his craft and his customer. He returns to his stool and begins the painstaking work of unpicking the old seams and sewing the new ones. He works with a renewed sense of purpose. He is not just fixing a garment. He is learning the other half of his trade. He is learning the art of dealing with a difficult client. As the afternoon deepens and the light outside turns to a warm, honeyed gold, a new sound enters the workshop. It is not a sound from the street, but one that comes through the back wall of the small room. It is a steady, rhythmic thumping and clicking. Thump. Decimus looks up from his sewing, a questioning look on his face. That is Phaedra, Magnus says without looking up from his own work. He is carefully hemming the bottom edge of the senator's toga, his needle making tiny, invisible stitches. She is a weaver. Her workshop backs onto ours. The sound is constant, a mechanical heartbeat that seems to regulate the pace of the late afternoon. It is not loud or intrusive. It is a background hum, a sound of steady, productive work. Thump-click-clack. The thump is the sound of the beater, a wooden frame that pushes each new line of thread tightly into place. The click-clack is the sound of the shuttle, a small wooden boat carrying the thread, as it is shot from one side of the loom to the other. She works from dawn until dusk, Magnus continues, his voice soft and meditative. She is one of the best weavers in this part of the city. the linen for the Domina Cornelia's stola that came from Phaedra's loom. Decimus thinks about this. He thinks about the woman in the next room, whose face he has never seen, but whose work he has held in his hands. He thinks about the invisible connections that bind the craftspeople of the city together. The shepherd raises the sheep. The shearer harvests the wool. The spinner turns the fleece into yarn. The weaver turns the yarn into cloth. And then it comes to Magnus, the tailor, to give the cloth its final form. He is just one part of a long chain of skilled hands. Thump. The sound is hypnotic. Decimus finds that the rhythm of his own stitching begins to match the rhythm of the loom next door. His needle moves in time with the shuttle. In as the shuttle clicks to one side. Out as it clacks back to the other. He feels a strange sense of connection to the unseen weaver. They are both working with thread, with fabric. They are both engaged in a slow, patient process of creation. They are partners in the same great work, separated only by a thin stone wall. Magnus seems to feel it too. He has worked next to Phaedra's workshop for years, and the sound of her loom is as familiar to him as the sound of his own breathing. It is a comfort to him. It is a reminder that he is not alone in his work. It tells him that all around him, in the small workshops and back rooms of the city, other hands are busy, other minds are focused, other people are creating. Listen to the sound, Decimus Magnus says. Every craft has its own music. A blacksmith has the ring of his hammer on the anvil. A potter has the soft whir of his wheel. A baker has the crackle of the fire in his oven. This is our music, the whisper of the needle and the hum of the loom. Decimus closes his eyes for a moment and just listens. He hears the soft scrape of his own needle passing through the linen. He hears the quiet, steady breathing of his master, and underneath it all, he hears the constant, rhythmic pulse from the next room. Thump, click-clack, thump, click-clack. It is a song of creation, a song of patience, a song of skill. It is the music of 1,000 small, repeated actions that, when put together, create something useful and beautiful. He imagines the weaver, Phaedra. He pictures her sitting before her great wooden loom. He sees her strong, nimble fingers guiding the threads, her feet working the pedals that raise and lower the head. He sees the pattern of the cloth growing slowly, line by line, before her. He knows it is hard work. It is physically demanding. It requires immense concentration to keep the pattern true and the edges straight. But he also imagines that she finds the same quiet satisfaction in her work that he is beginning to find in his. The satisfaction of seeing something take shape under your own hands. The sound of the loom connects Magnus not just to the present, but to the past. He remembers his own mother, Gaia's mother, working at her loom in the corner of their small home. The sound of the shuttle was the soundtrack of his childhood. It was a sound that meant safety, warmth, and industry. He believes that these rhythms are ancient, that for generations men and women have sat and performed these same tasks to these same rhythms. The tools may change slightly, the materials may improve, but the essential music of the craft remains the same. He is part of a tradition that stretches back through time. He is a guardian of a certain kind of knowledge, a knowledge that is held in the hands, not just in the head, a knowledge of how to turn the fleece of a sheep into the robe of a cinema. It is a humble knowledge, but a profound one. The sun sinks lower, and the light in the workshop grows dim, but the sound from the next room continues unabated. Thump. Phaedra, the weaver, is still at her work. Her diligence is an inspiration. It pushes Magnus to make one more stitch, to hem one more inch of the great toga before the day is done. He looks over at Decimus. The boy is bent over his work, his needle rising and falling in perfect time with the loom. A small smile plays on Magnus's lips. The boy is learning. He is not just learning how to sew. He is learning how to listen. He is learning to hear the music of his trade. The hum of the loom is a gentle companion as the day winds down. It is a reminder of the quiet dignity of a life spent in skilled labor. It is a steady pulse in the heart of the city, a sound of civilization, of order, of beauty being woven thread by thread in the fading light. The steady rhythm of the loom next door begins to slow and then fall silent. Phaedra, the weaver, has finished her work for the day. Her silence is a signal that the end of their own workday is approaching. The sky outside the workshop door is no longer golden, but a soft, dusky purple. Magnus has finished the long, painstaking task of hemming the senator's toga. He has folded it carefully and put it away. Cornelia's stola is also complete, the adjustments made perfectly by Decimus under his watchful eye. There is one last task on the mending pile that Magnus wants to attend to before he closes up. It is a soldier's tunic. It is not the formal dress uniform of a legionary, but a simple, coarse-wool tunic for everyday wear. It is stained with sweat and dust, and it smells of leather and hard work. There is a large, jagged tear under one of the arms, a wound from some strenuous activity. Decimus wrinkles his nose at the state of the garment. "Master, it is so worn. Surely it would be better for him to just buy a new one." Magnus shakes his head as he spreads the tunic out on the work table. "This tunic has a story, Decimus," he says, his voice soft. "A new tunic has no story. It is a blank page. This one has traveled. It has seen things. Our job is not to erase its story, but to allow it to continue." He runs his fingers along the coarse wool. It is a cheap, practical fabric, but it is incredibly durable. He can see where it has been mended before, in other places, with different colored thread. This is a garment that has been cared for, that has been made to last. A soldier does not have much, Magnus explains. His sword, his armor, his sandals, and a few items of clothing, each one is precious to him. He cannot simply discard something because it is torn. He relies on it. To mend his tunic is to show him respect. It is to acknowledge the hard life he leads protecting our city. He chooses his materials for the repair carefully. He will not use a simple patch, which could be bulky and uncomfortable under the arm. Instead, he will reweave the torn area. It is a more difficult and time-consuming technique, but it will result in a stronger, more flexible repair. He selects a wool thread that is a close match to the tunic's faded, brownish color. He threads a thick, sturdy bronze needle. He then begins the slow, meticulous process of mending. First, he secures the edges of the tear with a series of small, tight stitches. Then he begins to weave his needle back and forth across the hole, creating new threads to bridge the gap. His needle moves over and under, mimicking the pattern of the original weave. It is like working on a tiny loom. Decimus watches, fascinated. He has never seen this technique before. It is slow, intricate work. It requires even more patience than the fine stitching on the senator's toga. As he works, Magnus thinks about the man who owns this tunic. He does not know his name. He only knows that he is a soldier. Perhaps he is a young man, far from his home in Gaul or Hispania. Perhaps he is an older veteran, his face lined by the sun and the hardships of many campaigns. He imagines the man wearing this tunic. He sees him on a long march, the dust of the road clinging to the wool. He sees him on watch duty on a cold night, the thick fabric keeping out the chill wind. He sees him training in the barracks yard, the tunic soaked with sweat. This garment is a silent witness to the soldier's life. The tear under the arm might have come from sparring with a fellow soldier, or from lifting a heavy stone to build a fort, or from a dozen other strenuous tasks. By mending the tear, Magnus feels he is playing a small part in that life. He is helping this unknown soldier to continue his duties. He is adding another small chapter to the story of the tunic. The work is not glamorous. There is no expensive purple dye, no fiend Egyptian linen. The pay for this job will be a few small copper coins. But for Magnus, the work is no less important. He believes in the value of durability. In a city obsessed with fashion and status, with new things and expensive displays, he believes in the quiet virtue of making things last. To repair something is an act of defiance against a world of waste. It is an act of love. The hole under the arm slowly disappears, replaced by a tight, strong patch of new weaving. When Magnus is finished, the repair is barely visible. It is slightly darker than the surrounding fabric, a small scar that tells of a wound that has been healed. He runs his fingers over it. It is strong. It will hold. He finishes just as the last of the light fades from the sky. The workshop is now lit only by the soft, warm glow of a single oil lamp. The day's work is truly done. He folds the soldier's tunic and places it on the finished pile. It rests next to the elegant sea-green stola of the magistrate's wife. In Magnus's workshop, they are equals. Both have been treated with the same care, the same skill, the same respect. There, he says to Decimus, another story saved, another garment ready to face the world. Now it is time to put our own tools to rest. Decimus looks at the mended tunic with new eyes. He no longer sees a dirty, worn-out piece of clothing. He sees a badge of honor. He sees a story of resilience. And he sees the profound dignity in his master's humble work. He understands that a tailor's job is not just to create the new, but also to preserve the old. It is a lesson he will not forget. The day has been long, filled with the demands of customers and the challenges of different fabrics. Now, in the deep twilight, a profound quiet settles over the workshop. The street outside has fallen into a hush. The boisterous sounds of the day have been replaced by the soft murmur of evening conversations and the distant bark of a dog. This is Magnus's favorite time. The work is done. The pressure is off. But he is not yet ready to leave his sanctuary. He often stays for a while after Decimus has gone home to enjoy the peace and to do a little work for himself. Tonight, he is not working on a commission. He is working on a gift. His wife, Gaia, has a birthday in a few weeks. He is making her a new palla, the traditional outer garment worn by Roman women. He has chosen the fabric with great care. It is a very fine wool, almost as soft as the senatus, but dyed a deep, rich blue, the color of the sky at midnight. Gaia loves this color. It reminds her of the sea near her childhood home. He takes the cloth from its hiding place. In the soft lamplight, the blue fabric seems to drink the light, its color deep and mysterious. He has already cut the large, rectangular piece of cloth. Now he is working on the embroidery. He is not a professional embroiderer. That is a separate, specialized trade. But he has a steady hand and a good eye, and he knows the simple, elegant stitches. He is not trying to create a masterpiece. He is simply trying to create something beautiful for the woman he loves. He has chosen a simple design, a running pattern of silver-grey ivy leaves along the bottom hem. The ivy is a symbol of faithfulness and eternity. The silver-grey thread will shimmer subtly against the deep blue background. He sits on his low stool, the blue wool draped over his lap. He threads a fine needle with the silver-grey thread. He makes the first stitch. This work is different from the work he has done all day. He is not following a customer's instructions. He is not working for money. He is working for love. And so, his stitches feel different. They feel lighter, more joyful. His needle moves in a slow, steady rhythm, up through the fabric, down again. A small, perfect leaf begins to take shape, then another, and another. He is not thinking about the design. He has it memorized. His hands know what to do. This allows his mind to wander, to drift. This is the quiet art of the needle. The repetitive motion of the hand frees the mind to reflect. He thinks about his day. He thinks about the solid satisfaction of cutting the senator's toga. He thinks about the pride on Decimus's face as he learned to make a clean stitch. He thinks about the patient diplomacy required for Cornelia and the quiet dignity of mending the soldier's tunic. It was a good day, a day of purpose, a day of creation. He feels a deep sense of gratitude for his life, for his skills, for this quiet space where he can practice his craft. His needle continues its small, silent dance. Each stitch is a tiny moment of focus, a small act of creation. The ivy vine grows slowly along the hem of the palla. It is a slow, organic process, like a real plant growing. He thinks about Gaia. He pictures her face when she sees this gift. He imagines her wrapping the deep blue wool around her shoulders. The thought fills him with a quiet happiness that warms him more than the oil lamp. This is the secret reward of the craftsman. Not the coins in the box, but the ability to create gifts with your own hands. To be able to shape a piece of the world into an expression of your affection. The workshop is his haven. The world outside, with its politics, its ambitions, its noise and its hurry, feels very far away. Here, there is only the soft cloth, the sharp needle, the shimmering thread, and the steady work of his hands. He is not a senator debating the fate of the empire. He is not a general leading armies into battle. He is a tailor. His domain is small. His influence is quiet, but he believes that his work has value. He brings order to the world, one seam at a time. He brings beauty, one stitch at a time. He brings comfort and confidence to the people who wear his clothes. He helps a soldier continue his service, a merchant his trade, a senator his duties. In his own small way, he is stitching the fabric of Roman society together. He loses all track of time. The lamp burns low. The wax on his thread is almost gone. The ivy vine has grown by several feet. He holds the cloth up, admiring his work in the flickering light. The silver leaves seem to dance against the deep blue. It is simple, but it is beautiful. It is a piece of his heart, made visible in thread. He feels a pleasant tiredness in his body. Not the exhaustion of stress, but the good, honest fatigue that comes from a day of meaningful labor. It is a feeling of accomplishment, of energy well spent. It is time to go. Gaia will be waiting for him upstairs. There will be a simple supper, and they will talk about their day. She will tell him about the cloth she has been weaving, and he will tell her about his customers. It is a simple life, but it is a rich one. He carefully folds the blue palla and puts it back in its hiding place. He will work on it a little more each night, a few leaves at a time. The slow, secret progress is part of the joy. The quiet art of the needle has calmed his mind and settled his spirit. It has been the perfect end to a long and productive day. It is a reminder that the most profound satisfaction can often be found in the smallest, most patient of actions. The new day arrives, and with it, the final stages of the week's most important projects. Desmus arrives early, eager to help. The senator's toga is brought out one last time. It lies on the cutting table like a great white bird, its purple-striped wings spread wide. All the main construction is complete. The side seam is sewn, the purple border is attached, and the long, curved hem is finished with thousands of tiny, invisible stitches. But the work is not yet done. The final touches are what elevate a garment from merely well-made to truly exceptional. Today, we press, Magnus announces. Pressing is a crucial step. It sets the seams, smooths the fabric, and gives the garment its final shape and crispness. They do not use a hot iron as might be imagined. The heat could scorch the fine wool. Instead, they use pressure. Magnus has a set of heavy, smooth glass weights and several flat, polished boards of heavy oak. First, they dampen the toga slightly, using a fine mist of water sprayed from a small clay atomizer. This relaxes the wool fibers, making them more pliable. Then, Magnus shows Decimus the art of folding. A toga is not simply folded into a square. It must be folded along specific lines, a complex series of pleats that will help it drape correctly when worn. These folds are part of the structure of the garment. Watch closely, Magnus says. The folds are the toga's memory. We are teaching it how it should hang. If we teach it well, it will remember its shape every time the senator puts it on. He makes the first long, straight fold, then another and another, creating a series of neat, parallel pleats along the straight edge. His hands move with a practiced, architectural precision. He is sculpting the fabric. Once the toga is folded into a neat, dense rectangle, they place it between two of the heavy oak boards. Then they carefully stack the smooth glass weights on top. The immense, steady pressure will work its magic over the next few hours. It will press the damp wool, setting the pleats into sharp, permanent creases. While the toga is being pressed, Magnus turns his attention to the Domina Cornelius de la. The adjustments have been made, and the embroidery is complete. He inspects every seam, every stitch. He snips away a single, tiny, loose thread that only his expert eye would have noticed. He holds it up. The sea green linen hangs perfectly now. The extended embroidery at the neckline adds a touch of refined elegance. He is pleased. He knows that even Cornelia, with her critical eye, will find no fault with it now. He shows Decimus how to fold this garment as well. The linen is folded more simply into a neat square, ready to be wrapped for the client. The merchant Marcus's tunic is also ready. Decimus has finished it, his stitches growing more confident and even with every seam. Magnus inspects the boy's work thoroughly. He points out a few places where the tension could have been a little more even, but overall he is impressed. "You have done well, Decimus," he says, and the boy beams with pride. This is the work of a tailor, not just a boy who sews. Marcus will be pleased. Magnus presses the linen tunic himself, using a smaller press. The sandy-colored fabric and its red stripes look crisp and smart. It is a garment ready for a journey to distant lands. The morning is spent in this quiet work of finishing and folding. It is less dramatic than cutting and sewing, but it is just as important. It is the work of refinement. It is about taking something good and making it perfect. There is a deep satisfaction in seeing the finished products of their labor. Just a few days ago, these were mere bolts of cloth, raw materials filled with potential. Now they are finished garments, each with its own character, its own purpose. The toga grand and imposing, a symbol of power and tradition. The stela, elegant and flowing, a statement of wealth and taste. The tunic, practical and stylish, a companion for travel and commerce. Magnus feels like a proud father, looking at his children before they go out into the world. He has put a piece of himself into each one. His skill, his patience, his attention to detail. When Cornelia's slave arrives at noon to collect the stola, Magnus wraps it carefully in a clean linen cloth. He accepts the payment with a respectful nod. There is no need for words. The quality of the finished garment speaks for itself. Later in the afternoon, Magnus and Decimus carefully unstack the weights from the toga press. They remove the top board. The toga lies there, its pleats as sharp as the edge of a knife. Magnus lifts it. The wool feels different now. It feels more solid, more structured. He shakes it out gently. The pleats fall into a perfect, cascading drape. It is magnificent. He can see it now, worn by Senator Cassius. He can imagine the senator standing in the forum, the toga arranged just so, over his shoulder and arm, the purple stripe a bold declaration of his rank. The garment will move with him, a part of him. It will be worthy of the man. Folding it again for delivery is the final act. This time, the folds are looser, designed for presentation. Magnus shows Decimus how to arrange it in a shallow wicker basket, lined with clean linen. The purple stripe is positioned to be the first thing the senator sees when the basket is opened. "We do not just sell a garment," Magnus says. "We sell an experience." The presentation is the final stitch. The workshop is emptier now. The major projects are complete. The table is clear. There is a sense of accomplishment, of a cycle completed. From consultation to creation to completion, Magnus looks around the tidy space. he feels a quiet sense of peace. The challenges have been met. The promises have been kept. He has, once again, turned thread and cloth into something of value and beauty. The final touches have been applied. The work is done. The last rays of the sun paint the sky outside in shades of orange and deep purple. The workday is over. The finished garments for the cinema and the merchant are wrapped and ready for delivery tomorrow morning. The mending pile is empty. The workshop is clean. A sense of peaceful finality hangs in the air. Magnus moves through the familiar rituals of closing his shop, his actions as deliberate and calming as those he performs at the start of the day. Decimus has already left for the day, his face still shining with the pride of having completed his first full garment. Magnus is alone now, in the quiet company of his tools and the lingering scent of wool and warm wax. First, he sweeps the floor one last time. He gathers the tiny scraps of thread and fabric, the dust of the day's work. He places the scraps in their designated bin. He believes that a clean workspace invites a clear mind for the next day. He walks to his cutting table. He runs his hand over its smooth, scarred surface. He thinks of the fine fabrics that lay upon it today. The brilliant white wool, the sea-green linen. The table is the stage where the daily drama of his craft is performed. He gives it a final wipe with a soft cloth, clearing it for tomorrow's story. He then turns his attention to his tools. This is a ritual of respect. He cleans his shears, wiping the blades with an oiled cloth to prevent rust. He places them back in their proper spots on the wall rack. The great shears for the toga seem to rest with a quiet dignity, their hard work done. He gathers his needles. He counts them carefully, ensuring none have been lost. He pushes each one back into its leather or felt holder. These small, sharp instruments are his most essential partners. He treats them with care. He organizes his spools of thread. The vibrant colors are a pleasing sight in the dimming light. He puts the precious thread of Tyrian purple back into its special box, securing the lid tightly. He extinguishes all the oil lamps but one. The workshop is plunged into a soft, warm gloom. The corners are filled with deep shadows. The bolts of cloth on the shelves become dark, mysterious shapes. The space feels different at night. It is more intimate, more secret. It feels less like a place of commerce and more like a sacred space, a shrine to the tailor's art. He stands for a moment in the center of the room, simply breathing in the atmosphere. He can feel the echoes of the day's work, the focused energy of the cutting, the patient rhythm of the stitching, the quiet satisfaction of the finishing. The sounds from the street are muted now. The city is settling down for the evening. He hears the distant laughter of a child, the soft melody of a flute played by a neighbor, the gentle clip-clop of a horse walking slowly by. He walks to the doorway and looks out at the evening sky. A few early stars are beginning to appear in the darkening blue. The air is cooler now, a welcome relief after the heat of the day. He feels a profound sense of contentment. He has worked hard. He has used his skills to the best of his ability. He has created things of value. He has taught his apprentice. He has earned his rest. He does not long for a different life. He does not envy the wealth of the merchant or the power of the senator. He has found his place in the world. He is a craftsman. His happiness is not found in possessions, but in the process of creation itself. He pulls the heavy wooden door closed. The last slice of the outside world disappears. He slides the thick wooden bar into place. The solid thud of the bar locking is the final sound of the workday. The workshop is now a sealed, quiet cocoon. It will rest through the night just as he will. It will wait for him to return in the morning to bring it back to life with the first light of a new day. He takes the last remaining oil lamp and turns towards the ladder that leads to his home above. The small flame casts his long shadow on the wall behind him. He places his hand on the worn wood of the ladder, ready to ascend. He is leaving the world of work and entering the world of home. He is leaving Magnus the tailor behind and becoming Magnus the husband. It is a transition he makes every evening, a welcome shift in his identity. As he climbs the ladder, the smells of the workshop, the wool, the oil, the dust give way to a new, delicious scent from above. Gaia is cooking their evening meal. The aroma of garlic, herbs, and simmering broth fills the air. It is the smell of home. It is the smell of peace. The workshop is closed. The day is complete. After the simple, satisfying supper with Gaia, Magnus feels the need for a short walk. The air in their small apartment is warm from the cooking fire. He wants to feel the cool night air on his face before sleep, to let the day settle completely. Gaia, busy with her own evening tasks, nods her understanding. He steps out of the main door of the building, not the workshop door, and into the Roman night. The street is a different world from the one he sees during the day. The harsh sun is gone, and the moonlight is soft, painting the stone buildings in shades of silver and grey. Torches and oil lamps flicker in doorways and windows, casting long, dancing shadows. The light is soft and mysterious, hiding the dirt and grime of the day, making the city beautiful in a new way. The sounds are different, too. The roar of commerce is gone. In its place is a quieter tapestry of sound. The murmur of conversation from behind closed shutters, the tinkle of a wind chime, the distant, melancholy song of a lone musician in a nearby tavern. He walks with no particular destination in mind. His wooden-soled sandals make a soft, rhythmic clatter on the cobblestones. The sound is comforting, a quiet percussion in the night's stillness. He turns from his own narrow street onto a wider avenue. Here there is more life. People are strolling, enjoying the cool of the evening. He sees a young couple, their heads close together, whispering secrets. He sees a group of men engaged in a quiet, serious debate outside a wine shop. He feels anonymous in the crowd, a single, unremarkable figure in the vastness of the city. He enjoys this feeling. During the day, he is Magnus the tailor. Here, in the soft darkness, he is just a man, a quiet observer of the life around him. He thinks again about the people he clothes. He wonders if Senator Cassius is at a lavish dinner party now, his mind on politics and power. He wonders if the merchant Marcus is at home, planning his long voyage to Alexandria, the new tunic packed and ready. He wonders if the soldier is on guard duty somewhere on the city walls, the mended tunic keeping him warm against the night chill. He feels a thread of connection to these lives, a thread he has literally woven with his own hands. His work is out there in the world, moving through the city, living its own life now. It is a satisfying thought. He walks past a small temple, its white marble columns glowing in the moonlight. A few people are leaving offerings at the outdoor altar, their heads bowed in prayer. The air smells of incense and flowers. The sight fills him with a sense of peace, a feeling of being part of something ancient and enduring. His path takes him to a small public fountain. The sound of the splashing water is musical in the quiet square. He sits on the stone edge for a moment, watching the moonlight dance on the surface of the water. He looks up at the sky. Above the glow of the city's lamps, the stars are bright. He does not know their names or the stories the astronomers tell about them. To him, they are simply beautiful, a vast, silent pattern of silver points on a cloth of deep, dark blue. The walk has cleared his mind. The small details of the dartha, price of linen, the curve of a seam, the sharpness of a needle have faded. What remains is a feeling of deep, quiet satisfaction, a feeling of a life lived with purpose. He knows that tomorrow the sun will rise and the cycle will begin again. There will be new customers, new fabrics, new challenges, but he does not feel weary at the thought. He feels a quiet sense of anticipation. He is a craftsman. This is what he was made to do. He stands up and begins the walk back to his small home. He feels the pleasant weight of sleepiness beginning to settle on him. His bed, with its simple wool mattress and the comforting presence of his wife, is waiting for him. The day has been full, and he is ready for rest. He reaches his own doorway and slips back inside, the sounds of the night fading behind him. He climbs the ladder to their room, his movements slow and quiet. He is home. He is at peace. The tailor's day is truly at an end. The tailor sleeps, but the story of the cloth continues. And there are always more stories waiting to be woven in the quiet moments just like this.